Okay, well, to kick things off, Fatty, can you just give us a quick introduction of yourself?
Okay. I was born and raised in Sweden, and I came to America '08 because I got a scholarship to run track. And then I met Ben that next year, but we didn't start dating until 2010. And what else? I started doing like influencer stuff. Let me see. We got married 2012, and then I ran track professionally for a year after I had my first, and then I was just kind of like, okay, this is awesome, but I want to like be a mom and full time, and so Ben got accepted to PA school 2013, no 14. That's when we moved to Arizona, and that's when I kind of was like, okay, let's see what I can do. I started sharing just exercises that you could do when you were pregnant, just because fitness has just been always been a passion of mine, and then it just kind of like went from there. But I've always, I don't know, family to me is like number one. I've always been very passionate about my family and my relationship with my husband. I feel like, I don't know, I feel like nowadays you hear so many people like complaining about their marriages or their husbands, and I'm always like, I don't know, I love being married, you know?
Your relationship with Ben just seems so genuine. When you guys laugh, when you like collapse into him laughing, it is just the most tender. And watching your trip when you took your family back to Sweden,
Yeah.
I teared up several times when
Oh,
you saw your parents and then when you saw your sisters and friends. Like it really comes across genuine,
thank
very
you.
genuine.
Thank you. I miss my family. It was a fun trip. It was a really fun trip. I
Well,
wish we could go back.
we can tell that you love big. That comes through in everything that you do. Tell us about your kids. How many kids do you have, and what are their ages?
So I have 4 kids. My oldest actually turns 10 next week, which feels
Wow, double
crazy.
digits.
I know. I'm like, we've kept a child alive for 10 years. That is pretty amazing. And then Olivia is going to turn 8 this year. Kingston will turn 7. And then Zion is 3.
So I'm just curious. I'm guessing none of them have social media yet, but when they do, will that they are watching your stories and the things that you talk about. Will that change some of the things you talk about?
I mean, here's the thing. Our kids, we are very open in our home, and I feel like obviously age appropriate, you know. They don't think it's gross when we kiss. I mean, Ben is always like grabbing my bum or like slapping my, or like we're
Yeah.
very touchy-feely family, and I feel like I don't feel shame about talking about sex because I feel like it's a very normal, natural, beautiful thing between husband and wife, or
Yeah.
if you don't believe in that, but whatever, I just think it's a beautiful thing. And our kids, I don't know, we've had the sex talk with our 2 oldest. It's just, I don't know, I just feel like if we make it weird, then it's gonna be weird. You know what I mean? Like,
Yes.
then they're gonna feel
Yes.
weird, but it's not weird.
And what is so crazy to me, okay, guys, if you don't file, blah, blah, if you don't follow Fatty, she talks very openly and plainly about the nitty gritty of sex and what a healthy sex life can look like. And she has highlight bubbles that goes into details about the take the knee position, or what you can do with the grapefruit, or why she calls it Rossin after Bob Ross.
Oh my
But
gosh.
one of the most shocking things that you talked about, that actually no people who follow you talked about, was this total misconception about how sex even works.
Oh my Yeah. God.
There's a highlight bubble about belly button sex, and your kids will not be in danger
No,
of getting confused
absolutely
about how the
Like,
logistics of actual
I
the
just want to know, did they not ever watch even nature shows growing up?
not. Right. But
Like,
my
even
thing,
in nature,
I know.
it's not the belly button.
Like
I just
animals know how
baffled.
to do it, right? Like it's like
Yeah.
if they know, then we should know. I think truly, well, what baffles me is like, how do you get two people that are married to each other that think
Uh-huh.
the same thing. That to me is like, wow, how?
Wow.
Yeah.
Is
Crazy. Crazy. Well, we actually got quite a few questions on our MomForce Facebook page and on my Instagram page of people that had questions that not like actually where does it go? How does that work?
Yeah.
But real serious questions that I would love to get your take on.
Okay.
So I'd love to start with this one. This is an anonymous question. She says, "Ladies, I need ideas. I feel like my marriage is stagnant. Between the busyness of raising a family, working, church responsibilities, etc., I feel like I'm lacking a deep connection with my husband. Most evenings we end up watching a show and then doing our own thing until bedtime, and even date nights are feeling blah. We have planned a trip for just the two of us later this year, but I can't wait that long. What has helped you reconnect on a deep level with your spouse?" And before we get your take on that, do you remember when we had Christine Lawler on the podcast? She's a sleep and sex therapist.
Yes.
She actually spoke a little bit about this, and I want to share what she said. She said, "Women need to feel loved and secure and connected before sex feels like a viable, safe option. The problem is that men feel loved and connected through sex because, again, if you think about that evolutionary perspective, flip flops, like, gosh, if she wants and if she's willing to have sex with me, then she must really love me, right? And so men feel loved and connected through sex. But women need to feel loved and connected before they want to have sex. And so a lot of times I see in my couples counseling that we just get into this negative cycle where distance is created, or again, subconsciously, we do the thing, you're not meeting my needs, so I don't want to meet your needs. Now, I totally think that that is like such a dangerous place to get to where
Yeah.
you are like, oh, I'm not going to give it to you because you're not giving me what I need. But it
Yeah.
is true that like we as women, we're different creatures and we have different needs. So how can you have that connection that we crave as women that will then trickle into
The bedroom.
yeah.
Yeah.
What's your
I
take
feel
on
like
that?
we have this conversation a lot, actually. Like, we talked about libido and like high and low and all those things. For me, from the get-go, I mean, we started having kids literally, we had Noah a year after we got married. But Ben and I were best friends before we got married. So I feel like we had a pretty solid foundation, I guess. But once you start having kids and you add the hormones imbalance and you add being tired and all of those things, it's like sex might be the last thing that you're thinking of, right? It's like, oh, just
Mm-hmm.
like another thing or another chore
We've
or
been there.
whatever,
Mhm.
For me, from the get-go, I always was like, I need that time with you without kids. Like, I don't care what we're doing. I don't care if we're like doing laundry together. I just need that intentional time with him. And when he was in school, put the kids to bed early. And when I say it was between 6:30 or 7, my kids used to wake up so early. Like, I'm talking 6, sometimes before 6, and that was just I felt like I was drowning. And Ben was in school. I rarely saw him. So that time, the 30 minutes, the 45, the 1 hour after kids' bedtime was like, I look forward to that so much. And so we got in the habit of putting the kids to bed early. The kids got in the habit of going to bed early and they would get full sleep. And then we got in the habit of doing like check ins. I was really adamant about doing check ins on Sundays just because life happens, right? And it's like you're busy and you have kids. And so we
Yeah.
would
What does that look like though? A check-in? Is that a
so
formal like sit down?
so we would usually be in bed and we would just sit and talk. The check-ins was like we had 4 questions, well, 5 questions. The fifth question was always like something random, but the 4 questions were the same. So it was like, what is something that I did this week that made you smile, or what is something that I can do better? What is something that you are looking forward to this week? And then I can't remember what the fourth question was. And then the fifth question was something random. And those
Mhm.
questions that always turned into like deep conversations because it was like, I want you to tell me what is something that you would like for me to do better. Like, how can I help you, or whatever it may be. And they always led to super deep conversation, which always felt we just felt super connected, and it wasn't like I'm saying this to make you mad or whatever. It was like no feelings, like we're not getting mad at each other. We are really just trying to connect, and like talk and be honest with each other. And I loved those, especially when we had little kids and you get kind of sucked into motherhood. Those were super, super good for us. And then the fifth question was always like, how many times are we going to have sex this week? Or like, I don't know, something random, yes. Or like, I don't know, something random.
Or how are we going to have sex? Like, what time?
Because logistically.
With little kids and honestly with big kids.
No, you're good.
You can help, baby.
No, you're good.
You're good. Because with kids, whether they're young or old, like the actual logistics around having that time to physically connect, that can be really tricky. Actually, we got a couple of questions. Becky, at the office, I told the ladies at the office that I was interviewing you, and we got quite a few questions from the ladies at the office. Becky says, how do you set aside time for your partner when your kids are young and demand so much time and attention? And then we got this question anonymously from Facebook. She says, my spouse and I want to have sex more often, but we have older kids. 2 are even young adults, and we live in a smaller house. I feel like it's not possible to have privacy when the kids are home, and the kids often stay up later than we do. So what do you do to still make it happen? It was so easy when they were little with early bedtimes and non-eavesdropping ears, and I challenge that. It is not that much easier when they're little because you're so physically exhausted at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But talk to us about logistics. How do you make that work?
So the kids go to bed around 7:30. They are like in their room by 7:30 for sure, and they're so used to it. And so then from 7:30 or 8 till 10, 11, whatever time you go to bed, we have that alone time every night, And so like if you're a night person, that's perfect. If you're a morning person, that works too, But I feel like that has helped us a ton. But I sometimes like to be woken up a little,
Yeah, I remember those days. Well, and sometimes you got to get creative with timing. But sometimes
you do.
You can get creative with places. And actually, Erika asked. She posted a question in our MomForce Facebook group. What was the question you posted?
I asked them, "What is the weirdest, strangest place you've done the deed?"
And we got some really creative answers. If you need to get creative about logistics, here are some of the answers we got, Fatty.
Okay.
Airplane bathroom.
That was mine.
What? Are you serious?
Oh
my. Okay. Well, I was going to say disgusting, but okay.
Full disclosure, it was on our honeymoon, coming back from our honeymoon.
Okay.
It's never happened again. Like once you're in the Mile High, you are in it for life. I don't believe you have to renew anything. It'll probably never happen again.
Okay.
I was young, limber.
All right. So airplane bathroom, you got to be young and limber. And here's some other answers. On our farm in my husband's work truck.
That could be hot.
Out in the woods. A gas station off Interstate 15 in Montana. Again, newlyweds. She did make the note.
Sure.
Newlyweds. You'll do anything as a newlywed. While driving, the vehicle was actually moving down back roads.
Oh.
In a moving van while driving across the country.
Mm-hmm.
The closet of the room we were staying in at my in-laws' house while everyone was getting ready for church.
Oh.
In a hotel room with my parents and sisters who were sleeping. And another hotel room with my sister-in-law sleeping in the other queen bed.
Listen, there's something about like when you think you're going to get caught that makes it more thrilling. You know what I mean?
I agree. And Nate does not embrace that
Nate
same
would
theory.
never.
No. He wants complete and utter security and safety. In fact, we've got older kids too. And he cannot completely relax unless everyone is either out of the house or confirmed asleep.
So do you feel like it's hard then when you have older kids? Yeah.
Yes. That's why we go on a lot of trips.
Yeah. I don't.
We're business partners, so we go on business trips together. We'll take little overnighters and
nice.
We just lock the door.
I know.
I mean, the kids will come. You'll hear the door, and
clearly
they know.
You are a different breed if you're doing it in the bathroom. Fatty, do you want to share what is the most creative place?
I don't know if it was really creative, but when we were camping.
camping.
Yeah.
Okay. Can I make a
Woods.
confession? So Nate and I did a lot of camping when we were, my daughter's in the room, close your ears. We did a lot of camping when we were newlyweds too. And I was excited about,
Yeah.
the possibility, but guess what? We couldn't do it because of bears. Bears are attracted to that scent, apparently. And he was so
Oh.
afraid of anything getting released.
Nate has real restraint when needed.
I know, but guys, when he feels safe, he can really let it go. So
Okay.
it's worth it. It's worth it. It's so funny that Fatty lives by an Air Force base and there are jets flying all over. And for some reason, it feels very appropriate for this conversation.
It's
the roaring of the jets. in the
Yeah,
background.
very
Yes.
Top Gun, shirtless.
Yes.
Yes.
I'm okay.
Okay, let's talk about frequency because that's another issue. And you mentioned that was one of the questions that sometimes came up in your connection time. Again, anonymously on Facebook, we got this question. Ladies, I need to hear from you about what is considered a healthy sex life in marriage. I feel like my husband is often disappointed by my 2 or 3 times a week approach. Heaven forbid we go an entire week without sex. Kristen Lawler, again, our sex therapist that was on the podcast, this is what she said. Frequency is a tricky one because everyone's frequency is going to be a little different. But the science tells us that husbands and wives who are both sexually satisfied, that have been married for longer than 2 years on average, have sex 1 to 3 times a week. Now, that's a pretty big range because 3 times a week is almost every other day, and once a week is, once a week. But generally, I tell my couples, aim for once a week. Anything less than once every 2 weeks, and you run the risk of just starting to feel disconnected.
Yeah.
So aim for once a week.
Well, I love that she said that because every couple is
2
different,
weeks.
right? And so I feel
What are your
like a lot of people get so like worried or like, oh, we're not having sex as much as this person. It's like, well, you're not them. You know what I mean? So like your relationship is not their relationship. So I always tell people like, don't compare yours. If you feel satisfied and your husband or your partner is satisfied, then I think that's all that matters. I don't think, I also think like when you start counting or you start like focusing so much on like, oh, I gotta have sex this many times, then it's not fun. Like it takes the fun out of it or like the connection out of it, and it turns into a chore. You know what I mean? Like, so I just feel like don't stress so much about how many times if you are satisfied and you're happy and you feel connected with your spouse. There was something else I was thinking and I just forgot. Yeah. Oh, I was gonna say. No, go ahead.
The old saying, quality over quantity.
Yeah, but I think
Right?
I do think it's interesting that Christine pointed out that a minimum once every 2 weeks, because I do feel that if it is more than 2 weeks for whatever reason, I do start to feel a disconnect. And I think, especially if you have different like desire levels, like there's low and high, like you can find yourself in a place where someone is really feeling like, I need it more than
so
you're even
I've had a
thinking.
lot of people
I mean,
say the more you do it, the more you want it. And then also I feel like if you're having good,
I've heard
like
that.
True.
Yeah.
connecting sex, you're gonna want it more. You know what I mean? Like it's interesting since I've been having these conversations a lot and learning about other people's sex lives and like what they're going through or whatever, how many people just feel that are unsatisfied and they're not liking it. So that's why they don't want it, right? Like if you don't like something, you're not going to want to do it. And then some people feel not forced, but like, okay, I got to do it. But it's not out of like, oh man, I want to jump you right now. It's more like,
I know. Fatty, before I got married, I had someone tell me, you're not going to want to do it, but do it anyway. And I went into marriage a virgin. Like I had never done it, but I had thought a lot about it and I knew it was good. I thought it was going to be really
Had
great.
some
And then
high expectations.
I had high expectations and I was like, what? And so I kind of went into it a little bit like, okay, I don't know what this is going to be like. But my experience has been very, very, very different.
Yeah.
And I really feel bad for anybody who carries that around. And I think it is just a complete disconnection. Like you are clearly so comfortable in talking about like every aspect of your relationship.
100%,
I think it's in a relationship, if you are feeling dissatisfied, it comes down to communication.
Yep.
Like I am sure those girls whose husbands were trying to have
there's
with them through
there's
the belly
no
button
way that even
like,
felt
this
good. You know what I mean? There's
thought
no
it was
way.
gonna
I
be,
mean,
but they
there
probably
was
didn't know how
one
to
lady
talk
that
about
said
it, right?
it was.
No, it hurt.
No.
inflamed. Inflamed. I mean, how much are you pounding on your belly button?
Oh, God.
What is happening here?
So sad.
It's crazy.
Oh my gosh. So again,
If
it goes back to connection and
if I could
communicating.
be an emoji, I would be the head exploding. Like, I just don't.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
know.
No, I agree with communication. I agree. And I think too, like communication and maturity, like if you look back on when you got married, I think even me, like we didn't know what we were doing. We didn't know anything. And so you're just kind of like, okay, seeing like what works and what's not working. And it takes a while, at least for me, it took a while to like communicate, like, oh, I don't know if I like that, or like, oh, I
Yeah.
really like that, or whatever, and so I feel like it takes communication and also maturity, because you can hear, or had people say, I don't want to hurt their feelings, or they take it personally, and it's like, no, you're almost taught, like, especially in the LDS culture, or even any faith-based culture, I think that, like, it's well, you have sex to have babies, or you have sex because it's for the man, and it's like we have to rewire that thought process and like change how we're thinking and viewing sex, because it's not just for the man, or it's not just to make a baby, you know what I mean? And so, like,
Right.
it's awesome, it's beautiful, and it should feel good for both of you and not just for one person.
Yeah. And if it's not feeling good for you, like you're not going to hurt your partner's feelings by giving him some coaching, because he wants it to be,
Exactly.
the
Yeah.
only thing he wants is for it to be good for you, so that you'll want more of it. So
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
it's a
I think it
win-win.
also comes self-esteem. Like, the more
Yeah.
comfortable you feel in your own body and in your own skin,
100%.
then the easier it is to explore options.
Yeah. And
I agree.
Fatty, you have such a dynamic, free, beautiful, authentic personality that comes through on social media. And so you can only imagine that helps your intimate life. But not everybody feels so self-confident and self-assured. In fact, we got this question from Kylie. She says, how do you become more self-assured, like deep down self-confidence, feeling like you're enough, with knowing that you're not perfect, but still amazing, even with your flaws and imperfections? What advice would you have for Kylie?
Oh, I feel like taking time to just like loving yourself, or just taking time to doing things that you love, or doing things for you. I always say, do something for you today. And that can literally be anything. Go out, be in your thoughts for 5 minutes, or stand in front of the mirror and just look at yourself naked. Like, start there, because I feel like people don't do that. Like, when I get ready, I'm butt naked all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And then it also helps when Ben loves to see that. You know what I mean? Like, he boosts me, which helps boost my confidence. But I think, like, deep down is knowing myself and like sitting in my own body and like thinking like all the amazing things I've been able to do. But also just taking care of myself. I love working out, and that's something that makes me happy. It makes me feel good. And all of that makes, I don't know, just boost my confidence.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that for so long, women probably still suffer from the I've got to give, 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 give.
Yeah.
The saying, like, you can't pour from an empty cup. Like, if you
Yeah.
take care of yourself, then you're more present and more available to help other people. But then you have to be okay.
Yeah.
You have to be okay.
Yeah.
And I think
100%.
lots of times, like, how we look gets in the way of how we feel. And when it comes to having to take all of your clothes off, like, that can be a blocker for a lot of women, because they don't look
Yeah.
the way they think they should look, or that their husband's going to want them to look. But
turn the lights off. You'll be fine.
I mean, seriously, that is to turn the lights off. I'm really lucky. My husband has loved me, and through all of the metamorphoses of my body, through bearing 7 children. And that is important to me, that I always he's so generous with his, compliments of my body.
Yeah.
But like, this is the body he has. Like, we're together forever. Like, and
Yeah.
I'm going to show up in all of my imperfections, because he's also getting older too. Like, but I think in thinking about taking care of yourself, if you think about your intimate life as something for you, like, it's just a mind shift change, that just you go into it showing up totally different. You're
Yeah.
willing to speak up about what you want or what you need. And it just can be such a beautiful, connecting, important part of your life.
Yeah, and also like in the bedroom, I feel like a lot of women are like, "Oh, I don't know how to do this," or I feel uncomfortable doing this, or I feel comfortable with the lights on, or whatever. Sometimes you just fake it till you make it. Like if you act like you own it and just do whatever the heck you
Mhm.
want, I promise you that your partner will be like, yes. If you just
Well,
go in owning it, you know,
that's
and
one of my hacks for when I don't feel in the mood. It takes me a little bit longer to like be like, "Oh yeah, I want to do this," you know. But if I
yeah,
fake it, because I mean, fake it till I make it. That has been a mantra that I've used my whole entire life. It has worked for me, and it works in the bedroom because I can start faking that, like, "Oh yeah, let's do this. Oh yeah, I'm into it," and then before I know it,
Before
I'm
you
like
know
you
it,
really into
the next
it.
morning you're looking at him a
I'm
little
like, I'm
sheepish.
so
Like,
ashamed. Please erase
wow.
that from your memory. Oh, it's so good. Well, Fatty, thank you so much for all of your perspective and for being such a pure light and a I was gonna say like a
Genuine. It's the word I'm going to say again. Like, I feel like so many times people don't come off genuine, but your relationship with your children, with Ben, with your family, it really
yeah.
does come across genuine, and it's a bright light on
Aw.
Instagram.
Yeah, and I
Thank
am
you.
actually happy that my daughters are following you and learning from you.
Oh, thank you.
As we wrap things up, I've got
Yes.
one more question. Okay, again, this came from our community, and it's from Leanne. She says, "My kids are getting old enough now that we can't talk freely about plans to get intimate. What phrases or words do you and your partner use to drop hints and plan ahead for sexy time?" Okay, and before you give your answer, I'm going to read a few that came through on Facebook because this is hilarious. Okay, just text about it. Okay, unless your kids are connected to your iCloud and get on your computer and look at your texts sometimes. You can text or use hand gestures. I don't even want to know what the hand gesture would be. Make a special face. Um, this person says they talk about chess. "Hey, honey, want to play chess tonight? My king needs to pay you back for beating him last time," or
Oh
whatever.
my gosh.
So you get creative with that one. Okay, someone says we call it Szechuan because
Oh.
and How I Met Your Mother, once they made a joke about sex and egg rolls and Chinese food, and it always stuck with us. I don't know, it's weird, but for sure we get it. So Szechuan. Someone says, I remember my friends said that they would say, "We need to go over the bills later." So you could play office and accountant or whatever. Well, we never get graphic or anything, but we don't really hide it either. I like to just say, "Hey, you want to hang out later?" Okay.
Okay.
Someone says we clean the bathroom or change the sheets. Basically, we reference chores that our kids would absolutely want nothing to do with, and we make time for ourselves that way. Someone says, I have the unpopular opinion here, but while we're not graphic or explicit or direct, we're pretty open with how we talk. We say phrases such as, "You guys need to go to bed so mom and dad can love on each other a bit." Now, this could just mean sitting on the couch, snuggling, or being intimate in bed, but it's important for kids to know that sex is a normal and healthy part of their parents' relationship. It makes it easier for us to bring it up casually in day-to-day conversation and helps the kids be more comfortable talking with us about it too. And that is the example that you're setting in your family. I think I know we could be better in our family, and just Nate just gets a little sheepish even when I start kissing him in front of the kids. I don't know why, but it is important to show that this is a healthy, normal part of life together. But do
Yeah.
you and Ben have any like code words or secret hand
Not
gestures?
really. We would probably text each other if like the kids are around. But also I love the like the flirting throughout the day,
Hmm.
the grabs here and there throughout the day, and because that just like sets you up for a good mood. You know what I mean? Like
Yes.
you just kind of tease all day long. And that's another thing. I feel like a lot of people are like, I don't know what to say. It's like, don't make it so complicated. It doesn't have to be
Right.
this like long paragraph. You know what I mean? Like just I don't know, normalize to be silly with your partner. And if something is awkward, just like laugh at it. Like, like
Yeah.
laugh together. You don't have to be this serious and like, oh no, I'm embarrassed. Like, don't be embarrassed. It's your partner.
Yeah.
So I
Such
don't
great advice.
feel like we have a sign, but we like to text, just tease and texting, and
Mm-hmm.
or we'll like give it a little look if the kids are watching a show or something, and just run upstairs like little kids.
So fun. Oh,
So
you're awesome. Awesome. Any last questions for Fatty before we close, Ricky?
Oh gosh.
Anything particular? Do you know about the grapefruit?
Yes.
Let's not get into that, actually. Go to her stories. Check out her highlights.
It's just
talk about creativity.
stickiness.
I know. I have a lot of
Yeah.
questions too, but
Yeah.
maybe my kids do listen to this podcast, so let's not get too personal. Fatty, thank you so much for being part of the MomForce. Where can people find you?
Thank you for having me. I'm on Instagram on Style Fit Fatty, and I also have a TikTok, but I don't really understand TikTok, so.
Oh, tell us about your merch. You have some
Oh
merch.
yeah,
Your
yeah.
sweatshirts are amazing.
Oh, you're so nice.
Amazing.
It's been so fun actually, because I feel like it takes a long time and a lot of work to build a community, and that has been my biggest goal, to just like build a community. I want people to feel comfortable and seen and feel less alone. I think there's so many people that do feel alone, and I love being able to have these conversations for people to realize like, oh, I'm not the only one that's dealing with this, or oh, like I never thought of that, like let's try that, I just feel like my relationship or your relationship with your spouse is number one, obviously with God, but then your spouse, because at the end of the day, your kids are going to find someone else or move out or whatever, and you're going to be stuck with your spouse. And if you don't build that relationship and that foundation now, like that's going to be even harder later. And every relationship ebbs and flows, and is it ebbs or ebbs? One of the two.
Ebbs,
Anyways,
I think.
ebbs and flows.
I bought in on
Potato,
the
potato, whatever.
Yeah, so every relationship is up and down, and no one has a perfect marriage or a perfect relationship. And I think, if you are able to communicate and prioritize your relationship with your spouse and be intentional with them. Ben and I have said this like the last couple weeks to so many people, because people are like, you guys have never traveled together, just like you and him. We've never been on a trip, just him and I. And people always just like, how are you guys so happy, whatever. And it's like, because we prioritize that time at night, and it's like, that is non-negotiable. Our kids go to bed early, and we get a solid at least 3 to 4 hours, just him and I. And that is everything, And we also do couples journaling, and we'll do it like we used to do it every Sunday, but now we'll do like every other or whatever. And that's just a way to reconnect. And I feel like people see it as like, oh, well, nothing is wrong. It's like, there doesn't have to be anything wrong for you to reconnect with your spouse, and
Yeah.
anyways, so
Couples journaling. Nate actually brought that up in our podcast too, because he
Really?
used to write me the most beautiful letters when, 2 years of our relationship, he was on a mission, and that was before you could do FaceTiming and phone calls. So we have these beautiful letters where he'd pour out his heart, and I miss that. And so maybe some couples journaling would help us too. 27, 28. We're going to be married 29 years this year.
wow,
I know.
Good for you.
that's
But you know what? Everyone could use a reminder that it's important to invest in all aspects of your relationship. And the community you've built is really impressive. The DMs that you share in your stories is just a testament to how comfortable and connected people feel with you. That they have a safe space to ask the hard questions or share a victory of like, some exciting new developments. So
I took a knee.
Again, check out the highlight bubble. Thank you so much, Fatty, for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.